Welcome to the Spring 2020 Benchmarks for Excellent Student Thinking or BEST Standards update for elementary ELA and mathematics. This video provides an overview of the new Florida standards that will begin going into effect for grades K through 2 in the 21-22 school year and the 22-23 school year for grades 3 through 12. The state has created a standards review website that contains the most up-to-date information concerning the BEST standards. It can be found at the site in the upper right corner of the screen. If you have any questions on information you find on the site, please do not hesitate to reach out to any member of the district literacy or mathematics team to assist. Now let's start off by looking at the changes in the coding scheme. Shown is the coding scheme for the BEST standards. This may seem familiar to you. The coding scheme for ELA and mathematics will return to the former scheme used with the next generation Sunshine State standards and what is currently used in science and social studies. The first is the subject. Mathematics will return to MA and ELA will be coded ELA. It is followed by the grade level for grades K through 8 and 9-12 for high school courses. Next is the strand. In a few slides, we will look at how the strands are arranged within the BEST standards. The next value in the coding scheme is the standard. The placement of the benchmarks within the standards mark an important change compared to previous standards used in Florida. The last digit denotes the benchmark. Next, we will look closer at the strands, standards, and benchmarks and what make them different in the BEST standards. Shown is the placement of the mathematics strands in the BEST standards. In elementary, the counting and cardinality standards have been grouped within the number sense and operations strand. There is also a common K-12 algebra strand named algebraic reasoning. There is also a common K-12 geometry strand named geometric reasoning. Data analysis and probability strands return in elementary with the BEST standards. In secondary, there are new financial literacy and logic and theory strands. Finally, the mathematical thinking and reasoning standards will replace the mathematical practices. We'll look at this change in a few moments. The standard number within a given strand provides a vertical alignment from grade level to grade level. While there may be additional mathematical skills needed for a student to be successful, the standard in a previous grade level is a good place to start to find prerequisite skills. Here is a progression for the algebraic reasoning strand, Standard 1. In kindergarten, students represent and solve addition problems with sums between 0 and 10 and subtraction problems using the related facts. In first and second grade, they build on the size of the numbers up to 100. In third grade, they start multiplying and dividing problems. Fourth and fifth grade, they solve problems using all four operations with whole numbers and fractions. In middle school, they use arithmetic expressions and algebraic expressions. The individual component of the BEST standards is a benchmark. Besides the benchmark language, there are two more components that are equally important. They are examples and benchmark clarifications. The examples are simply examples of the expectation of the benchmark in the classroom. Benchmark clarifications give instructional suggestions, instructional limits, and the different conceptual and procedural methods that are intended within the benchmark.
Now let's take a look at the ELA strands. There are 5 strands. Foundations is coded F, Reading is coded R, Communication is coded C, Vocabulary is coded V, and ELA expectations are coded EE. All the strands spiral except for the foundational skills strands. This strand includes standards for print concepts, phonological awareness, phonics and word analysis, and fluency. There are specific benchmarks to be mastered at each grade level. The next strand is the reading strand. There are 3 reading standards for the reading strand, which include reading prose and poetry, reading informational text, and reading across genres. Under each of the three standards, there are specific benchmarks like theme, central idea, and figurative language. Following the reading strand is the communication strand. There are 5 communication standards for the communication strand: communicating through writing, communicating orally, conventions progression chart, researching, and creating and collaborating. Under each of the 5 standards, there are specific benchmarks like argumentative writing, oral presentation, and researching. Vocabulary is the next strand and has only one standard: finding meaning. The benchmarks focus on determining meaning of words within the context of the text. ELA expectations is the final strand. These are overarching K-12 benchmarks that are interconnected and help organize all the other strands. Let's take a deeper look at one standard within the R strand. The standard number within a given strand provides a vertical alignment from grade level to grade level. While there may be additional ELA skills needed to be successful, the standard in a previous grade level is a good place to look to find prerequisite skills students may need additional support mastering. This is an example of the reading strand, Standard 1, Benchmark 3, for perspective and point of view. For ELA, the benchmarks are listed starting with 12th grade and ending at kindergarten. The whole kindergarten benchmark is bolded to show the new concept, and then as the benchmark progresses for each grade level, only new concepts are bolded. The individual component of the BEST standards is a benchmark. The benchmark states the standard for each grade level. Besides the benchmark language, there are other components that are equally important. One are the benchmark clarifications. These provide instructional suggestions and instructional limits within the benchmark for the specific grade level. Now let's highlight a few of the changes between the FSA standards and the BEST standards. We will look at the ELA standards first. We will not be looking at all the changes, but some of the basic changes that will help us understand how the BEST standards are structured. Once we begin training for implementation, we will take a deeper look at the changes for specific ELA content changes for each grade level. The first organizational change are the ELA expectations. As shown previously, these are overarching skills that are interconnected and developed over time from kindergarten through 12th grade. The next change is the shift from 6 strands of ELA standards to only 4 strands along with the ELA expectations standards. The foundation strand has been expanded to secondary students who are not yet proficient readers. The appendix provides specific Dolce and Fry word lists, common Greek and Latin roots, fluency norms, and text complexity measures. The next strand are the reading standards, which include literature and informational text. The appendix includes text structures and text features. The communication strand includes communicating in both written and oral forms through various methods. There are specific writing types, elaborative techniques, and communication rubrics located in the appendix. The final strand that organizes the standards is the vocabulary strand, which focuses solely on determining the meaning of words in context. The appendix provides base word examples, types of context clues, and various word relationships along with figurative language. The next change is the vertical progression of each standard. The standards spiral and are vertically aligned. You can see how the whole benchmark is bolded in kindergarten as it is introduced. Then, as new concepts are added in next grade levels, they are bolded. This helps for vertical planning and helps to see how the standard can be differentiated for various student needs. Along with the vertical progression, some benchmarks will have clarifications. For example, the second grade benchmark for identifying plot structure and describing the main story elements clarifies the specific story elements, the exact components of the setting to describe, as well as how to describe the characters. These clarifications for each grade level help to clarify how the standards instruction will take shape in the classroom. The BEST standards provide many additional resources that will help support implementation in each grade level. One resource to draw your attention to is the Conventions Progression Chart, which supports the communication strand and conventions standards. This shows when each convention skill is to be introduced, mastered, and reviewed from kindergarten through 12th grade. Another resource provided are the civic focus texts for each grade level. These provide a source to build background knowledge and vocabulary in the lower grades and a rich study in rhetoric, reasoning, and argumentation in the upper grades. They reinforce civic instruction by providing quality text to which students can apply their developing reading and reasoning skills. Specific grade level changes will be analyzed as we study the standards for implementation over the next few years. For elementary ELA, these small changes will have big impacts on continuing to strengthen our students' success.
Now we'll look at the changes in mathematics with the BEST standards. There are some new ways that benchmarks are written in the BEST standards. Here is an example where the benchmark language influences classroom instruction. In general, these benchmarks give students an opportunity to explain if two different expressions are equivalent. You may have given your students a similar task this year. This expectation will be in benchmark language when we move to the BEST standards. You can start doing these classroom tasks now with your students to help in the transition. The use of number lines in elementary increases when the BEST standards are being used. Shown is how many different benchmarks mention the use of number lines in either the benchmark language, examples, or benchmark clarifications. It has been said by some that the new benchmarks are completely different. Others argue that they are just renamed. The truth is somewhere in between. Yes, there are benchmarks that have little or no changes between the MAFS and the BEST standards. There are just so many ways to say add two-digit numbers. There are also benchmarks that have moved courses. But there are benchmarks in the BEST standards that were not addressed in the MAFS. Shown are some examples of changes in the BEST standards. One of the biggest benefits from the Common Core and the MAFS is the use of the mathematical practices. In the BEST standards, there are similar K-12 standards called the Mathematical Thinking and Reasoning Standards. Both the mathematical practices and the mathematical thinking and reasoning standards address how students are expected to engage with the mathematics, but there are some differences between the two. Here is the written description of Mathematical Practice 1 that is currently found on CPOMs. What is the first thing you notice? The first thing I notice is there are a lot of words and the wording in it is very vague. This is why after multiple years of training, not everyone has had a common understanding of the mathematical practices. Here is Mathematical Thinking and Reasoning, or MTR Standard 1. MTR 1 is similar to Mathematical Practice 1 because they deal with perseverance and effort. Each Mathematical Thinking and Reasoning standard has two different sections. The first section starts with the statement, mathematicians who participate. These bullets relate to how students become better at mathematics. The next section are the clarifications. These bullets explain how teachers can help their students become better at mathematics. There's been much talk about fluency with the BEST standards. The BEST standards do define the stages of fluency that previous mathematics standards neglected. Within the standards, there is a course progression of the stages of fluency. So one stage could start in first grade and continue into second and third grade. The first stage is exploration. In this stage, a majority of the work is based on gaining a conceptual understanding. The next stage is procedural reliability. The procedural reliability stage focuses around showing that there are different ways to get the same correct answer, but the given situation drives the method to be used. Just to note that the procedural reliability stage, students may need a teacher's help in selecting an appropriate method. This is a great opportunity for teachable moments when showing multiple methods and asking why one method was better in a certain situation. The final stage is procedural fluency. Note that it states procedural fluency includes a standard algorithm. It is not just the standard American algorithm. Algorithms such as partial product and models such as area models are still components of the procedural fluency stage. In all stages of fluency's automaticity, note that this stage does not mean only time test. There are fluency materials built within the elementary mathematics curriculum and fluency practice from supplemental online programs. If you give paper and pencil fact tests, consider timing how long it takes to complete the test instead of how many correct in a given amount of time. After scoring, have students graph how many they got correct and how long it took to complete the test. This is a more positive way to increase automaticity. The mathematics best standards have multiple appendices to support learning. Appendix A deals with situations that represent the fundamental meaning of the use of addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. Appendix B looks at fluency and automaticity for grades K through 8. Shown is the Grade 4 section. Notice the chart states procedural reliability and procedural fluency demands along with additional automaticity expectations. Appendix C is the glossary. The glossary contains a definition and in some cases examples. There is a separate glossary for K through 5 and 6 through 12. Appendix D lists the properties of operations, equality, and inequality used within the best standards. Appendix E lists many formulas used in the best standards. For elementary, there are formulas for area and volume. You must be excited to start using the best standards, but shown is the implementation timeline for our new standards. Next year, the 2021 school year, is a planning year. The standards will not be used in the classroom next school year. In the 21-22 school year, K through 2 will implement the best standards in mathematics and ELA. In the 22-23 school year, all mathematics and ELA classrooms will be using the best standards. Let's look at the highlights of events within the implementation timeline. Next year, the 2021 school year, is a planning year. Some of the highlights are there will be an ELA textbook adoption. There'll be the creation of new curriculum for grades K through 2 in mathematics and ELA to be used during the 21-22 school year. There will also be the creation of units or modules to prevent gaps within the best standards for grades 3 and up to be used during the 21-22 school year. Training for grades K through 2 teachers and elementary coaches and administrators will occur. And there will be mathematical thinking and reasoning standards training for all mathematics teachers. In the 21-22 school year, grades K through 2 will be using the best standards. There will be a mathematics textbook adoption. There will be the creation of new curriculum for grades 3 and up to be used in the 22-23 school year. Training for grade 3 and up teachers and secondary coaches and administrators will occur, and teachers will begin using the mathematical thinking and reasoning standards in mathematics classrooms. In the 22-23 school year, the best standards will be used in ELA and mathematics courses. This is also the year for our new state assessment in ELA and mathematics. So this means during the 2021 school year, which is next year, there is no use of the best standards in the classroom. We will have more videos in the future to give more information on the best standards and the Polk County Public Schools rollout of them. Have a great day.